What happens when Donald Trump crashes Barack Obama's live town hall only to get silenced by one sentence that the whole country is still replaying? The crowd didn't know what had just hit them. It was supposed to be a calm, primetime town hall on a Tuesday evening in Phoenix, Arizona. Barack Obama was seated under the bright studio lights, jacket, unbuttoned tie loosened just enough to signal ease, without losing professionalism. He was speaking about the strength of democracy when the moderator's earpiece crackled. A few seconds later, the air shifted. "Mr. President," the moderator stammered, looking directly at the camera, we've just been informed that President Trump is calling in." Gasps flooded through the audience. This wasn't scheduled. No one expected a sitting president to break into his predecessor's event, let alone live on national television. The control room scrambled. Producers waved frantic hands behind the glass. The moderator looked like he'd just been told the building was on fire. Obama didn't blink. He simply leaned back in his chair, one hand resting on the armrest, the other lightly pressing his chin. His expression was calm, almost amused. "Put him through," Obama said with that slow, deliberate cadence people had missed since 2016. The screen above the stage lit up. Trump's face appeared via phone feed, his voice booming through the speakers. "Brock, I had to call in," Trump started. "I'm watching this whole thing, and it's a disgrace. Total disgrace. You're sitting here talking about democracy when under your administration jobs were being lost left and right under me. We had the best economy the world has ever seen. People know it. Everyone knows it. Nobody's seen anything like it before." Some in the audience shifted uncomfortably. Others murmured, "This wasn't just unusual. It was a clash of eras, live and unfiltered." Obama didn't answer right away. Instead, he turned to the crowd, let the silence hang, and then spoke as if he were having a private conversation in someone's living room. "Well," he said softly, "looks like we've got company tonight." Laughter erupted. The tension broke just enough, but only for a moment. Everyone could feel where this was heading. A showdown no one had rehearsed, for one that could go viral in seconds. Trump, sensing he had the upper hand by interrupting, doubled down. "People remember how bad it was before me. Terrible manufacturing was dying. China was eating us alive. I came in. I fixed it. And the numbers don't lie. If it wasn't for me, this country would be in ruins. And now you want to sit here acting like you did something good? You didn't. People know it, Brock. They know it." His words weren't polished. They were loud, forceful, designed to dominate. But they carried weight because he was still the president. His name stamped on every headline, his face on every network every single day. The audience, though, wasn't looking at the big screen anymore. Their eyes were locked on Obama. Everyone wanted to see what he would do. Would he take the bait? Would he respond with anger? Would he let it slide instead? Obama leaned forward. Slyly, his hands clasped now, and looked into the camera. He didn't match Trump's volume. He didn't rush. He spoke with steadiness of a man who had been through battles before and understood the value of timing. "Mr. President," Obama said, pausing to let the words hang in the air, "I think the American people are less interested in who shouts the loudest and more interested in who actually tells them the truth." Crowd erupted in applause. The moderator shifted in his seat, partly relieved, partly nervous at where this might lead. The clash was no longer hypothetical. It was happening. Trump jumped back in, his voice rising, but something had shifted. Obama's calm response wasn't just about the words themselves. It was about tone, control, presence. Viewers at home could feel the contrast in their gut. One man storming the other, steady, unshaken. In that moment, the room no longer belonged to Trump. It belonged to Obama. But this was only the opening shot. What came next would turn a political confrontation into one of the most replayed live television moments in recent memory. But before the night was over, Obama would deliver a single line that made history long before Trump's unexpected interruption. The night had been designed to feel steady, thoughtful, and reflective. The network had set up a town hall at the Phoenix Convention Center, a glass-walled space downtown surrounded by office towers and palm trees. The stage was simple. 2 armchairs angled toward each other, a coffee table with 2 glasses of water, and an audience arranged in a half circle. The invitation to Obama had been pitched as a conversation, not a debate. The idea was to let him speak about the bigger picture, democracy, unity, and what it takes for a country to hold together when everything feels fractured. Cameras panned across the room, capturing faces of teachers, veterans, college students, and retirees. Some had Obama shirts from his campaigns faded but still worn proudly. Others were just curious to see what the former president would say now that politics had become louder, sharper, and far more combative. The moderator, a seasoned journalist from Dallas named Reed Lawson, started the evening with easy questions. "Mr. President," he said, "when you look at where we are right now, what worries you most about the health of our democracy?" Obama leaned back in his chair. "I worry," he said slowly, "that we've started to confuse performance with leadership. We've got politicians who think if they trend on social media, they've done their job. But leadership isn't about getting likes or retweets. It's about whether you actually make life better for the people who trusted you with their vote." Crowd applauded softly. It wasn't the thunderous type of applause you hear at rallies. It was measured, thoughtful, the kind that comes when a line lands because it feels like truth. For nearly 40 minutes, the conversation flowed in that rhythm. Obama touched on voting rights, the importance of listening to people outside your bubble, and the challenge of misinformation spreading online. He didn't name Trump directly, but his words carried a shadow that everyone in the room recognized. A young woman in the audience, a public school teacher from Mesa, raised her hand. "How do you keep believing in the system?" she asked, "when so many people are losing faith in it?" Obama smiled gently. "That's a fair question. Look, the system has never been perfect. It wasn't perfect when I ran. It wasn't perfect when Abraham Lincoln ran. And it won't be perfect for your students. But here's the thing, it only works if people like you stay in it. If teachers, nurses, veterans, small business owners, if everyday folks keep pushing, keep holding leaders accountable, that's the lifeblood of democracy. Without it all, you've got as a stage show." People in the crowd nodded, some wiping their eyes. The energy wasn't electric, but it was steady like a fire that warmed slowly instead of flaring up all at once. Meanwhile, behind the cameras, producers monitored the broadcast carefully. Ratings were solid, trending upward on social media. Clips of Obama's words were already circulating. Hashtags with his name were climbing on Twitter. For some, the event felt like a reminder of the past. For others, it was a direct contrast to the noise they'd grown used to in the present. That's when the first text alert came into the control room. "The White House is watching." No one thought much of it. After all, the White House always watched. But then another note came. "President might respond." The director exchanged a nervous look with the floor manager. "Respond? How? Through a statement, a tweet, a press secretary briefing?" By the time the moderator moved on to another question about voter participation in Arizona, it became clear this wasn't going to be a normal night. The staff could feel something building, though they couldn't predict what out in the crowd. A veteran from Flagstaff raised his hand and asked, "Mr. President, what's the one piece of advice you'd give the man in office right now?" The room got quiet. Obama tilted his head, considering well, he said, choosing each word carefully. "Say this, when you're president, you don't get to just talk to the people who like you. You've got to talk to everybody, even the folks who didn't vote for you. Because whether you like it or not, they're still your boss. That's the job." The answer landed. It wasn't sharp, it wasn't flashy, but it carried the weight of experience. People applauded again, some leaning forward in their seats back in the control room. Though alarms were practically ringing, the President Trump wasn't going to let that go. Not tonight. Not on live television, with millions watching. But no! One expected he'd go further than a statement or a tweet. No one expected him to break into the broadcast himself the moment it happened. You could feel the entire room stop breathing. Reed Lawson, the moderator, had just wrapped up a question about misinformation when his producer held up a small white card, waving it frantically from the edge of the stage. Reed squinted, adjusted his glasses, and glanced at the note. His lips pressed together. He cleared his throat, shifting in his seat. Ladies and gentlemen, I've just been informed we have something unusual. President Trump has called into broadcast. The audience gasped in unison. A few whispered to each other. One older man in the back muttered, "You've got to be kidding!" Me? Obama, still seated comfortably, crossed his legs and rested his elbow on the chair's arm. He looked amused, as if he'd been expecting something like this all along. "Go ahead," Obama said smoothly. "Let's hear him." And just like that, Trump's voice blasted through the speakers. The feed wasn't video at first.